Welcome to the end of the world. We have found ourselves in a unique place where our mostly fictional podcast has crossed into the realm of non-fictional for the most oddest of ways. We are
Yep.
recording tonight after Election Day, and we're not going to talk too much about the election because we're
Yeah.
not political aficionados. Neither one of us have any background in politics. We are just people who have opinions, and we could talk a lot. At one point, you and I did talk quite a bit about this. The first time
hmm
this gentleman, who shall remain nameless, won, um, we talked about him along with another friend of ours from Texas. At the time, I was living in
Yeah.
California. And we talked about his victory over Hillary Clinton for, I don't remember what time I went to sleep. I know it was daylight. I want to say it was like 5 or 6 in the morning. I remember
Yeah.
staying up and talking and just being like, what in the fuck? Well,
Yep.
similar thing happened last night, except I was sitting up with my wife, kind of also similarly, what the fucking.
Yep.
Needless to say, the team that I was going for didn't win.
Nope.
And if that bothers you or offends you in any way, shape, or form, that's cool. You don't have to fucking
Yeah,
listen
that's
to us
fine.
talk. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. That's fine with me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't give a shit if you were going to give me $1 million. I don't give a fuck. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I am going to say my opinion whether you want to hear it or not.
There it
That's
is.
just the punk rock in me. That's what
I
Henry
dig it.
Rollins taught me. God damn it. Speaking of Henry Rollins, let's talk about how your week was. How was your week? Was your week? Would Henry Rollins have approved of your week?
um. God. I mean, I renewed my yearly loan, so I don't know how he
Mhm.
feels about building credit,
I
but
feel like Henry Rollins approves of fiscal responsibility.
I hope so.
I
He
feel like,
seems.
yeah. Honestly, if Henry Rollins sold me tax software, I might be more interested in buying it. If Henry Rollins was
Honestly.
like got intense in your face, like it was like a recreation of like a '90s commercial with like it's black and white, the camera zooms in, Henry's in the middle of a concert, and he's like, "Hey now, do you
Have
want
you
to buy
checked your
H&R Block?"
have you have you filled out your I-9s? No, that doesn't work.
You wanted to maximize your tax return, right? That's the premise. Anyway, I'm a terrible Henry
Get all
Rollins
your
person.
deductions.
Oh man. Man. Henry Rollins, I'm not a good impersonation of, but
No, it's
I feel like he would have approved of my week as well.
yeah,
I had a weird week. It's been a weird couple of
yeah.
days. I feel like every time I get on here, I have something weird to say, but this time it's a little more personal.
Mhm.
And not regarding the election at all. That was, like I said, my team lost, but personally, a bigger loss to me was a dog that I had. My dog Dolly, who I've been the owner of now for 8 years.
Mhm.
Loved her very, very dearly. She's had cancer for a good number of those years. She's been on chemotherapy pills, steroids, everything you could
Mhm.
imagine. At one point, she was on 12 different pills that she took a day, or
Oh man.
medication she was taking a day just to get by. And that
Yeah.
was working for a little while. And then it just stopped working. And we had to make the unfortunate decision to say goodbye to her. And we did
Mhm.
that on Monday of this week. So that was, I spent most of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday just crying.
Mhm.
And, yeah. And some people might think, oh, she's a dog or whatever. Like, that's fine. I don't have kids. So she kind of was my child in a way.
Yeah, I totally get it.
And more than that, she kind of was like this connecting force in my life in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
When I first moved from California to Memphis, I didn't really know anybody. I moved here
Right.
simply because it was affordable living, and I had a job offer that got me out of living with my kind of crazy grandparents in California.
Yeah.
Uh, it was nice not having to pay rent. It was a little manic dealing with them at times. So decided to move from California all the way to Memphis, Tennessee without knowing anybody. And all of my friends were in Texas because that's where I used to
Yep.
live way back when. So I moved here. I didn't know anybody. And then I met this girl, and through this girl, I met this dog, and through the two of them, I made a bunch of friends, and I have made
Hmm.
like a little network. And I met them at a very interesting time in my life to steal from Fight Club,
Yep.
because I met my wife, who I met her at the time. She was my girlfriend.
Right.
And then about 3 weeks after I met her, I got laid off from my job that I had moved from California to Memphis for
Hmm.
because my boss changed. And my new boss, he did not really care for me, and he made my life not fun, and
Uh,
was made me told me the day before Christmas break that he didn't
uh,
think there would be a job for me going forward. And I was like,
I
okay,
remember that.
so do yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you got told this story,
Oh, yeah.
so I was told that, and then I'll just tell this story here because well, it was a kick-ass story. I think it made my wife fall in love with me because she was there at the time. Um, so she's already dating me. I get told I'm getting laid off, or so I think, right? This is right before Christmas. So you get told, like, I don't think there's a job for you coming back on Christmas break. So my mind is like, think. And I'm like, all right, well, is there or isn't there? Someone from HR will be in touch. Okay, cool. So I leave. I tell my girlfriend, hey, I think I got laid off. I'm not really sure. Someone from HR is supposed to be in touch. Cool, whatever. We go on enjoying our day. I'm hanging out with this dog that I'm fucking falling in love with and
Hmm.
having a really nice time with this girl as well and falling in love with her and just enjoying Memphis for the first time, right? Like I had moved to this
Yeah.
city. I had lived there for about 2 months, 3 months, didn't really know anybody, right? Had
Mm.
kind of just doing my own thing. Kind of getting into shit, but not
Yep.
really meeting any people. Spending a lot of time playing Heroes of the Storm online.
Yep. We spent a lot of time doing that.
A lot of time playing Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, that was what I spent a lot of time doing before I met her. And so, this guy tells me this, and HR never gets in touch with me. I get in touch with them because it's now New Year's, and I've still not heard anything about whether or not I have a job. And I need to know because school starts in like a couple days. Am I coming back? you know, no one gets in touch with me. Someone finally does, and they tell me to come down there. They tell me what the deal is, that, I was working under a grant or whatever, and they decided to pull the grant. Cool, cool, cool. Not a big
Hmm.
deal. Okay, so we're going to pay you the rest of your contract. Now, here's the thing that I did. Tennessee is a one-way consent state. If you do not know what that means, it has nothing to do with sex. Get your
Nope.
minds out of the gutter. Has everything to do with being recorded
Yep.
audio. Um, One-way consent means that only one person has to consent to being audio recorded. That means that I can
Hmm.
record a conversation, and I don't have to tell you I'm recording the conversation as long as I am also speaking on the conversation. I'm just
Hmm.
recording it for my own permission. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's admissible in court. You can get into the lawyers, legality of all that. That's fine and dandy. But at this particular moment, I felt it behooved me, this is my educated mind, to record this
Hmm.
conversation because this place had kind of screwed me over a couple of times. Now, I
Yeah.
did this, didn't tell anyone, did it, came home, told my girlfriend, hey, I recorded the conversation, had her listen to it, where they tell me that they're going to pay me the rest of my contract. They decided then to not pay me the rest of my contract.
Uh,
And I responded by telling them about this recording. They then paid me the rest of my contract. So
very nice.
I got paid to go
Hen-
away because
Henry Rollins approved.
yeah, he would have. And yeah, and then I came home and I hung out with my new dog and would eventually become my wife. And yeah, that story
Hmm.
all kind of connects. And there's a lot of other stories that I could talk about involving
Yeah.
her, but we had to say goodbye to her, and I will forever and ever miss that dog. She was a really important person in my life. And
Hmm.
yeah, so when it comes
Hmm.
to the movie we talked about this week, it might be a little brief. There's been a lot of shit going on
Yeah, really.
in addition to the dog and then the election and then at work, I actually got a bonus. I got a little
Hey.
incentive. I got a $3,000 incentive bonus because of how well I did on state testing last year. So take
Whoa.
that. Anybody who has ever doubted me, I don't need you to doubt me. I kind of have like a little bit of a Michael Jordan complex in the sense that like I will create self-doubt and attribute
Hmm.
it to people just to like give myself motivation to do better at things. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. I need to do that.
I whenever I didn't know that I never knew that I did that until I watched that
Yeah.
Michael Jordan documentary where he talks about doing that, and I was just like, I kind of do that too, Michael.
Yeah.
Like I get like I'll like make people that don't even really know me very well, and I'll be like, that person fucking hates me, and then I'll be like, I don't know if they do or not, but in my mind, it helps me motivate myself to be like, I'm gonna fucking show that asshole, I'm gonna show that little fucking prick who's what. I don't know, gives me what I need in life because
I like it.
I'm not maybe the most I don't know, user friendly. I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
that's the word to
I
go
understand
with.
what you mean.
But did get a $3,000 little bonus there, so that was nice. That's
Nice.
pretty
That's
dope.
nice.
Yeah.
Heck
So I
yeah.
found out that today. So like I said,
That's an
it's been a weird few days. It's been
yeah.
a weird few days. Lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of downs. Some
Yeah.
of the downest downs you could imagine.
Yep.
And then a few ups here and there. We have
Yeah.
another little dog that we've been taking on little trips everywhere and loving all over
Hmm.
him, and he's been enjoying it, and that's been fun to watch. And
Yeah.
making him happy is kind of pulling me out of any kind of depression that I could fall too far into.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
But
let's talk
yeah,
about the movie tonight.
let's talk about this movie, Prayer of
Prayer.
the Rollerboys.
Thank you. I like it. You're still my
Yeah,
thunder. I like
I'm
it.
stealing thunder over here.
You're still in thunder.
Well,
You called down
of
the
the two
thunder.
of
Well,
us,
now you got it.
of the two of us, I'm a I don't know. I'm like the one that digs on rollerblading movies.
This is
It's
true.
sort of my
This is true.
thing.
I will ask you some questions about this here in a moment about
Yes.
movies that involve rollerblading as a theme, because you and I both lived through this being a thing.
Yep.
If you're a Gen Zer um, or an older millennial who did not experience rollerblading, the subculture that it popped up,
Hmm.
you're in for a treat tonight because we're talking about 1991's Prayer of the Roller Boys. This movie came out on March 21st, 1991. The director was Rick King.
Yeah,
Um,
Rick King.
Rick King directed lots of TV movies, but
Hmm.
also directed some kind of cool 90s movies. Killing
Yeah.
Time with Kiefer Sutherland, A
Hmm.
Passion to Kill, and
Yep.
Terminal Justice with Lorenzo Lamas. Um,
Hmm.
Lots of movies where men are on the edge, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
have guns.
Yeah.
Um, his biggest credit is actually that as a writer. He was the story creator of Point Break. So
Okay.
there you go. And we'll talk about that movie a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of similarities to Point Break in this movie.
There really is.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that caught on to that because it
Oh yeah.
basically seems like they just, yeah, because the director of this movie is the creator of the story of Point Break, right? The writer of this movie is the writer of Point Break.
That's really coming together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So his name is W. Peter If, I think, or Ilf. I'm not sure. His name
Yeah.
had a lot of I's and L's. It's hard to tell
Yeah, I didn't even want to
how.
try.
Yeah, I'm going with Ilf. I could be wrong. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. W, that's your name, Peter? I don't know what you go by. I've
Huh.
always wondered that people that have first initials is like W. Like, should I do that? Like, could I change my name to M something? Just go like everyone's like, oh,
Ooh.
there's M over there. I don't think I could pull that off. I think that make me too much like a prick. Um, but this guy, he didn't just write Point Break. He also wrote Varsity Blues, Patriot Games. So a lot of movies. I've also
Yeah.
Men on the Edge, except for
Oh
Varsity
yeah.
Blues. I guess that's
Well,
men in high school.
he was kind of on the edge because he doesn't want to live your life.
I don't want to live your life, Dad. Go hang out with Billy Bob and
Yep.
butt fuck
God,
me a
what's the
goat or whatever the hell they do in that stupid fucking movie. One of my
Oh,
least
I watched
favorite
that movie
football
so much.
movies.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Well, okay.
my
My
wife and I
issue with
have
that
a
movie,
football movie fanatic phase that we went through. We watched a bunch of football movies, and Varsity
yeah,
Blues is not mine at all.
I it has
Reminds me
a
way too much of being in fucking high school in Texas. All
well, I was
right,
about to say it's exactly like that.
way too fucking much.
Well, you know, it was loosely based on Friday Night Lights, so
Not surprising.
it
Speaking of
yeah, it
Friday
does
Night
not.
Lights, I was in that fucking
It,
movie.
yeah. Oh God, I was working at the movie theater when that came out. Everybody wanted to sit and wait for their name on the credits to roll by, so
Oh,
we
I
could.
didn't. I was not that lame. I didn't even see it in theaters. I thought that. I also think Friday Night Lights kind of sucks. But I was in that movie.
It was
I got my
it was the most
motherfucking movie
shaky
check.
cam movie. Like more than once, we had to clean up like someone puking in there because it was so shaky cam.
Can't
That is a
handle Peter.
real story.
Can't handle Peter Berg's direction. Yeah.
Exactly.
Peter Berg
Uh,
is like if Michael Bay was somehow stupider. There you go.
yes, I'll give you that.
There's my hot take
Although I did get
on
to
that
see him in
movie.
person at the theater
Same,
because
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
He was the dipshit telling me to stand and turn to the left, turn to the right, put your hands up, look angry.
no,
It's very vivid direction. Made me
well, because
immediately be like, I could be a fucking movie director. This is all you're doing.
they did they did the premiere here in
Yeah.
town.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I remember
yeah,
that. Yeah. Yeah,
yep,
I
I
remember
was
it being a
working
big
there.
deal.
That yep.
Yeah, my dislike of crowds made me immediately have no interest in going. That's been a thing
Oh,
since
it
long
was
before high school. Do not like crowds. If there's a lot of people, you will not find my ass there.
nope, right
I
there
will
with you.
turn around if I go to the grocery store and there's too many people, and it's not even like a set number. It's a number. It's an imaginary number in my mind. But when
Hmm.
I go into a grocery store, if that imaginary number in my mind has been exceeded, my brain's immediately like fuck this. And I have done seriously like at Aldi's or Kroger here in Memphis. I've done the older like the Grandpa Simpson thing where he like walks in the door, puts the hat
Oh,
on the rack, turns around, grabs it, and walks right back out.
yep.
Like I've done that before, where it's just like, oh hell no, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
So yeah, he's the writer of Varsity Blues, Point Break, Patriot Games, and this. Those are his big credits. Other things as well, but you
Yeah,
know, those are his big ones. These movies here. Um, this movie has a lot in common with Point Break, like I said, a lot
it
in
really
common with
does.
Point Break. Differences are the stars. So whereas Point
Mhm.
Break has Keanu and Lori Petty and Patrick Swayze,
Yep.
instead here we get Corey Haim, who died in 2010. Obviously,
R.I.P.
obviously mostly known for the Lost Boys. Before
Yes.
this movie, he had done Lost Boys. He had done Dream a Little Dream. So he was kind of in the apex of his stardom. Dream a Little Dream is a
Mm,
fucking bizarre movie.
it really is.
That's a movie not enough people talk about as just being the plot is fucking like wacky as
Yep.
shit. Do you have a favorite Corey Haim movie or is it just Lost Boys?
Uh, I mean, Lost Boys is really up there. There was this
Lost
one
Boys is
movie
great.
called
Lost Boys is great.
oh, it's such a great movie. Um, there was this one movie he was in called License to Drive.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah, it's all right.
But for the most part, yeah, it's. I mean, I got to give it to Lost Boys.
Yeah,
It's
he
an
was
easy
also in
win.
that Lucas movie that he was in. I've never saw that
Oh
one.
yeah, I didn't see it either.
I've never seen it. This movie came out 2 years after Lost Boys, Prayer the
Yeah.
Rollerboys did. So it's kind of like right there at the kind of as he's reaching into his stardom before he
Hmm.
starts kind of churning out some duds here and there. His
Yeah.
co-star is Patricia Arquette.
A
So before
young
this
Patricia Arquette.
movie, a young Patricia Arquette, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Before this movie, her only real thing she had really been in was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which is
Oh,
one of the better Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
yes.
She was also in the Dawkins music video to the soundtrack
Oh,
of that movie,
oh, awesome.
tying into our hair metal conversation from last week.
There you go.
She is in one of my favorite movies of all time, two of my favorite movies of all time, actually, True Romance and Lost Highway.
I was going to say
Um,
Lost Highway right there,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
top of mine.
She is in those movies. True Romance is an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Um, and then our villain, rounding out our cast, is a actor playing Chris Coulet, I believe is his name, Christopher Coulette,
Yeah,
something like
I don't
that.
know anything about this one.
So he, unfortunately, I thought he was fucking fantastic in this movie.
Oh
First
yeah.
off, he is mostly a voice actor. He does a lot of
Uh,
Pokemon voices. He
really?
also does voices in the Sonic animated TV shows, tying into something that I used to accuse you of being an expert in, oh, about almost 15 years ago. Um, I don't even know why I used to do that. That was the
Yeah,
thing I
really.
used to do. It was one of my many gimmicks back in my mid 20s where I had three major gimmicks. These are the three gimmicks of a 20-year-old white male living in West Texas with a mildly amusing high school college education. This is tying into my overall like of making lists. Number three that I used to do was I would put on a movie for you and then just
Oh,
leave.
yes. God damn it, yes. And I was
Which,
just like, because
yeah,
I wasn't paying to live there, so I was just
no,
couch surfing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I can't turn it because I
Yeah.
mean, he pays to live here.
It took you a long time to realize that this was happening.
Oh
I
yeah,
would go
I
to
would get
like
halfway through a movie and I'd be like, what's happening?
he's not coming back. Yeah. No, this was the thing I used to do. This was back when Netflix was relatively new. This is like
Hmm.
15, 16 years ago now. So Netflix had a lot of shit back in the day that they don't
Oh
have now.
God,
Now it is a lot more of like Netflix originals. Back in the day, Netflix used to just be like what Tubi is now, where it was just a wild
yeah.
west of shit. And
Birdemic was one that a couple of
Birdemic,
times you did.
a couple of times I put on Birdemic and just left.
Yep.
Now all of these were movies I had watched previously, so I knew going
Yes.
into them these are terrible, and I would put them on and then just basically like as the psychological test. Like let's see how long
Oh yeah.
he can sit through this until he's like changes it or decides that this is awful and tries to come look for me to figure out why I put this movie on. Then got up from the room, left, and did not come back. Uh that was uh
Oh,
that was a fun time. That was a
fond
fun time.
memories there.
Yeah. The other was accusing various people of being so-called experts on various random things that no one could be an expert on. I believe I accused you of being an expert on the Sonic animes to the point that one time, I don't even remember her name. She was a random girl that one of my friends was talking to, trying to hook up
Hmm.
with. She was over at our mutual apartment that we had with several people, and
Yeah.
we always had people, we had a lot of parties, and we she
Oh
was
yeah.
over
Big
there,
time.
and I remember I mentioned this just as a joke, like offhandedly, like, oh yeah, Travis is an expert, he knows everything about the Sonic anime. And she was immediately intrigued and inquisitive and was
Oh.
asking you a lot of questions about Sonic, and rather than just being like, oh, he's just fucking around, he doesn't know what he's talking about, you went with it. And yeah.
I'm game. You know.
Getting to fuck around. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun thing. And
Oh.
then I did that, and then putting random shit on the wall. I would do that a lot of. I would just like if there was a nail, I still do this. It drives my wife crazy. If there's ever like a picture and a nail, I'll just grab someone's like, we need to find a place for this picture, and there's a nail on the wall. I'll be like, and there it goes. And it never it does not make for it's supposed to be a joke, but it's a joke for only
Yeah.
myself.
Oh, I love
But
the
you know, I got to
jokes for
amuse
that
somebody.
are jokes that are only for myself are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Like when I do
I
puns and stuff, I'm not interested in other people laughing. It's just
yeah,
for me.
I have
So,
stopped doing all of these things. I no longer put
oh
on
yeah.
movies and then just leave. But I used to. So
Yeah.
besides back to Chris Coulet here, besides being doing a lot of voices for Pokemon, because most voice actors don't just do one voice, they do a lot of
Right.
voices. He does Pokemon, he does Sonic the Hedgehog, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece,
Hmm.
bunch of live action TV shows as well. His first big movie was Sleepaway Camp, and then
Oh
this.
really?
But quite honestly, I don't think he probably has appeared in nearly
I
enough
like
live
him.
action TV movies or anything like that because he was really, really, really good in this. He's maybe the best part of this movie.
I think so.
So this movie, I could not find the budget and I could not find how much this movie made.
Yeah, there was no info on that I saw.
No info at all. But when this movie came out, these were your options to go and watch at the matinee. If you go back in
Mhm.
time to March of 1991, the end of the month, these were your options that you could have watched in addition to Prayer of the Roller Boys. If anything, I think maybe this will give us context for how much this movie could
Yeah.
have how much money this movie was looking to make in competition to everything else.
Hmm.
So these were the hits of 1991 March. Silence of the Lambs,
Oh.
Sleeping with the Enemy,
Oh.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2,
Oh no.
The Doors,
Oh
New
wow.
New Jack City,
Oh yeah.
Dances with Wolves,
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Home Alone.
Oh really? That was 91.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last three are a little oddballs, but I definitely know two of them. The last one, the middle one, I'm not familiar with. King Ralph.
King Ralph. Yes.
Yeah,
A
yeah, I
John
like that.
Goodman movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie. The Hard Way, I do not know that way. I do not know
I
that movie.
think I know that one. I
Okay.
think
I'm not familiar with that movie from the 90s.
I'd
Maybe
have
if
to.
I saw the
I
the
was gonna say if
VHS
I saw
cover.
it.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
I saw the cover, it might bring back a memory. And the last
Yeah.
one is Shipwrecked.
I think I know that one.
Yeah. So,
Think.
those were the movies that this was in competition with when this came out. So you can
Okay.
see that
So,
it was going into some murky waters.
yeah, I was about to
When
say it's
Yeah. However, it was nominated for two Saturn Awards. For Corey Haim got a nomination for I think like Outstanding Young Actor, and then it was nominated for I think writing. Um,
oh, okay.
yeah, so that's the background of the movie. Like I said, not a whole lot because like our third time in a row, the writer and director didn't do a whole lot of other movies.
No.
The director, like I said, he kind of just did this and then a bunch of kind of middling, okay-ish 90s action movies starring Kiefer
Hmm.
Sutherland, Lorenzo Lamas, stuff like that. But nothing really like super exciting to talk about. And the writer, same thing, Varsity Blues, Point Break, Patriot Games, if you really like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Those are his kind of big those his big credits. And yeah, so that's our background, and I guess we'll
Yeah.
get into the plot here in a minute. We're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna come back and talk about the plot of this movie, and then talk about what we're gonna watch next week. And we'll
Heck
see you
yeah.
guys in just a second.
See ya.
Don't mind me just stopping in to say hey and thanks for listening to the podcast. Hopefully, you've enjoyed it and are finding it fun and interesting to hear us talk weekly about the end of the world and a hopefully less than horrific viewpoint. Try to make it a little bit fun, some levity as we talk about these kind of depressing movies. And yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and keep listening. Thank you so much. And back to the show. And we're back.
We're
And
back.
we're talking about Prayer of the Rollerboys. Let's get into the plot of this movie, because it's kind of an interesting one. So the
It
movie
is.
starts with Corey Haim doing his best Chris Edwards impersonation, and that's literally the only rollerblading thing I know, is because I played Chris Edwards aggressive inline on the PS2. But this
Nice.
movie it is a subgenre of post-apocalyptic movies, specifically about rollerblading.
Yes.
There's more than one of these. First off.
Yeah, there is.
And if you didn't know that, there's Solar Babies, there's Roller
Hmm.
Blade, there's
Yep.
Legend of the Rollerblade 7, there's the Rollerblade 7, there's a bunch of them.
There's a bunch.
For some reason in the early 90s, we all went through this phase where we really got into rollerblading.
I
I
used
re-
to
I
I used to do
remember
a little aggressive in
rollerblading.
mine.
I did
Yeah.
as well. I remember I fell onto a bunch of like thorns once.
Oh
That
God.
was not fun. Not fun.
I
No.
always landed on my knee for some reason. Even if I fell backwards, I landed on my knee. I don't know how I did that. So
I
now they're like
landed
different shaped.
always on my ass every time, straight on my
Really?
ass, straight either
Oh
my ass or
God.
my head, my ass or my face every time. It was one or the other,
Jeez.
like a fucking Humpty Dumpty, just like I'm going one way or the other. Yeah. So
Yep.
Chris Edwards, Corey Haim starts our movie, and he's fucking found himself a killer line, and he's thrashing
Yep.
down. That's once again, that's all I know for my vernacular for when it comes to rollerblading. So if you were coming to this episode thinking that we were going to get really in depth with the history of rollerblading, my dog died. So sorry. That did not happen. I did not look up the history of the rollerblading movement. I
No.
did not look up why it happened or how it died. I do
Yeah,
remember going to
it's
Toys R Us. I do remember buying rollerblades. I
hmm.
I remember going to roller rinks. I remember it being a big thing for a little while there.
Yes.
And then it kind of just stopped and
It
everyone
just
moved on to
stopped.
other things.
Yep.
Similarly, scooters. Scooters had a time there.
Yeah, they really did.
The arc and descent of scooters is a magnificent tiny little hill in history that needs to be explored by someone at some point, but not
I
here and
think
now.
so. Not here
Not
now.
here. So we get interspliced with Chris doing his thing. We get interspliced with a little bit of narrative of a much
Mhm.
better dressed actor. This is our villain, who I am going to lovelily refer to. This is I so context is needed here. Because of everything going on in the world and in my own personal life, I did not watch this movie, have time to, until last night at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Last night was the election night, so some of this might come across in there. But I am referring to
Mhm.
him as JD Vance. So JD Vance shows up, and he is telling us basically why and what happened to lead up to this apocalyptic scenario.
Yep.
And it is because of the economic crash caused by
Yeah.
the adults and their greed, their credit debt, their lack of industriousness grew in the farms and the
Mhm.
factories. And whose fault is this? It's the fucking foreigners.
Foreigners, not the yuppies, but the
Yes.
foreigners.
And this is not me. This is not me joking. This is literally in the movie. This is what the
Yep.
movie is. Like the movie is premise is that there's this group of rollerblading neo-Nazi white supremacists assholes.
Yeah. They even call themselves the White Army. I was like,
They
I already
do.
knew. I was like, oh, I think I know
Yeah,
where this is
it
going.
yes sir. Yes sir indeed. And they are trying to take over or have taken over LA. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of the villain. And this guy is the main villain. He's the main guy behind this thing. Do you remember his name?
Gary Lee.
Gary Lee sounds like something
Yeah,
out of fucking Pokemon. I
it
swear to
does.
God. It
It
sounds like a
really
fucking
does.
Pokemon. Like I keep wondering, is he gonna fucking throw down Pikachu and like a Rapidash? Like what do I have Squirtle ready? Am I fucked? Like I mean I could use Bulbasaur against Squirtle. I mean I can use Bulbasaur against Pikachu. That's no problem. But if Gary Lee is gonna fucking throw down a Rapidash and a fucking wheel, then I gotta really, extending the knowledge of my first
Yeah, I
generation
was about to
Pokemon
say.
knowledge. It's been a long time. I do have some
I've
Pokemon tattoos.
never played one game of Pokemon, so I don't know.
Oh man, the first two generations of Pokemon have a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah.
I have several Pokemon related tattoos
Oh yeah.
because of some of those characters. I remember playing countless hours into those games. And
Yeah.
Gary Lee sounds like a fucking Pokemon villain. He sounds like one of the dipshits who would stop you on your way to one of the
Hmm.
gyms and challenge you, and it would be like, "Oh, I gotta fight this fucking dude." God damn. Yeah, so he's basically blaming all the foreigners for everything that's wrong in the country, which is why I called
Hmm.
him JD Vance.
Yep.
And this movie was very, very interesting to watch after the news of last night.
Yeah.
It was fucking weird. It was very much like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're getting onto here, but I'm seeing a lot of parallels that I maybe shouldn't have seen.
Yeah. Oh, it was apparent. I watched it before all of that, and I
Yeah.
still was like, this is a little eerie.
Now, I will say for the Rollerboys, in spite of them being white nationalist scumbag asshole douchebags who have probably never felt the inside of a vagina, they
Mhm.
do, they are fabulously dressed.
Oh, absolutely.
Spectacularly dressed.
They
Like
kind of dress
it
like
was
you would expect a Pokemon villain to be dressed.
yes, yes. So they are
Mhm.
dressed from head to toe. They are in first off rollerblades.
Yep.
Secondly, white trench coats.
Yeah.
Third, all black turtlenecks.
Yes.
And
And
fourth, white pants.
no, don't forget the suspenders.
Yes, thank you. White suspenders as well.
Yes.
And they rollerblade in a formation not unlike that of the Mighty Ducks when they do the
It
flying V formation.
yeah.
Dropping all kinds of
It's
rollerblading
all
movie here. Yeah, I if you think I'm joking, this movie is for free on YouTube.
yep.
It is there. It's it is not hidden. They do it a lot. Every time the roller boys show up, it is in formation and it is spectacular.
Oh,
Uh,
it looks good.
yes, and these assholes are speaking of the day of the rope, and I literally wrote down, "Holy shit, are they wanting to hang people of color?"
It was very Night of the Knives kind of thing.
Yes, it was fucked up. I was like, "Holy crap!" Because I had never seen this movie before. So this
No.
movie was a trip to me because I was like, all right, I kind of know the premise is that it's Corey Haim. It's a post-apocalyptic rollerblading movie about him infiltrating this group. Cool, got it.
Yeah.
That's all I knew going into it. Did
Yeah.
not
I
know it
knew
was
less than
about
that.
neo-Nazi white nationalist scumbags. Like, did not
Yep.
know any of that. Did not know any of that. It was very
No.
crazy to see.
Yeah.
Um, We also find out that Patricia Arquette is here, and her character is kind of multi-layered. At first, all we really know
Yeah.
is that she's kind of hot and really wants drugs.
Yep.
Turns out she's got more going on than that, but that's really kind of what we get thrown out at first.
Yeah.
Corey's also got a little buddy, because of course he does. What would a man like Corey Haim be without a little buddy? And what's his little buddy's name's friend? Do you remember his friend's name?
What
Was it
was it? What is?
Milton?
What was that? His brother, Milty?
Was it Milty? Yeah, was it his friend or his brother?
I got the impression it was his brother.
That makes sense. I guess they're yeah, that makes sense. That yeah, he is his brother. Yeah, you're right. They're brothers. They're
Yeah.
brothers. It wasn't just friend.
Okay.
More than friends. The brothers.
Yep.
So yeah, Corey is a van driving, homeless helping pizza delivery boy.
Yep.
And his first assignment is to go deliver some pizzas to the guards at what is basically an internment camp.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, we get to see Trump's America firsthand here.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so the homeless people are held in groups and watched like animals. And we learned that this is where the Rollerboys also had their origins, was in these camps as well.
Hmm.
We'll learn more about that because
Yeah.
as the movie goes on, we get interspliced little details that kind of give us context of what's going on in the world, which I thought was really interesting. The world of this movie is kind of interesting, that it's like an
Yeah.
economic collapse. The states are kind of rendering, the states have kind of taken on governing themselves like their own independent
Hmm.
nations. Individual gangs like the Rollerboys are purchasing industrious like buildings, nuclear power
Yeah.
plants, making deals with different corporations, making deals with other global organizations.
Yep.
Because of the brain drain and resources, most of the colleges have left the United States.
Hmm.
So, like at one point on the news, it says that like all of the Ivy League is now in Japan.
Yeah.
And Corey would love to go to college, and he wants to make sure his brother can go to college as well,
Hmm.
but neither one of them can because it's presented as like college is not only super expensive, most of the colleges are in a different country.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have kind of layers as to like what's going on in this world. And we learn more and more and more as things go on, but those are some of the more
Hmm.
interesting things is yeah.
Yeah.
So Corey makes a big mistake of being a human because he sees this house getting shot up by these people and it starts a fire. And so he
Yep.
decides to back his van in and save a guy. Guy ends up being a roller boy.
Yes.
Such propels the plot of the movie. So it turns out J.D. Vance and Corey Haim used to be neighbors. So they have a history here together. And this is when they
Yes.
show up in formation. Corey Haim saves one of him. He gets assaulted by the police. He gets set free. Him and Milty are in an abandoned parking garage somewhere, just
Yeah.
rollerblading. I guess that's what you did in 1991. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I guess that's what you did in 1991. You just
Yeah.
rollerbladed in abandoned garages. And when that's happening, JD Vance and the crew show up of Rollerboys, and that's when you learn about the history of them. And we also get
Hmm.
some just casual racism,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
some casual racism.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's a little odd to see especially after the news of yesterday. Um,
Right.
yeah, we also get told that the Dow is falling and the interest rates of Mexico are rising, and yeah, all kinds of stuff is going on in this world. Like I said, the world building is really interesting. It's kind of like if you
Yeah.
took Point Break and put it into a post-apocalyptic scenario. We'll get to the Point Break part here in a moment.
Yeah.
Um, so then Corey goes to his first party boy party or not party boy party
Party
roller
boy.
boy party.
There
And
you go.
we get introduced to a kind of an interesting soundtrack. Would you remember what song is
Yeah.
playing at the party?
That was it, I don't know the exact name of it. It had like a hole.
Yeah, Head Like a Hole
Nine
by
Inch Nails.
Yeah, Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Interesting that they would have a bunch of neo Nazis listening to Nine Inch Nails.
I mean, of all the
I think that
parties.
was funny. Yeah, and in the middle of this party, you have everything that a neo Nazi party loves: Nine Inch Nails, nude women wrestling. That's
Yep.
what they're here for. Corey's here to
Uh,
take Milton out because Milton. So basically, the Rollerboys, because of the history of JD Vance and Corey, they go way back. They used to fuck couches together, right? So
right.
JD wants Corey to come with him to fuck couches as part of the Rollerboys because they fuck couches in unison, right?
Yeah,
It's a technique.
it's information.
Information. And Milton is really impressed by this because he's a young boy. He's interested in fucking couches. So,
Yeah,
um, Corey is though little apprehensive. He doesn't necessarily want to go
yeah,
back to the couch fucking
yeah,
because he's got his eye on Patricia Arquette. But
right.
he's interested in her, right? But he's a little he doesn't, in spite of kind of coming off as a little shy at first, he kind of
Hmm.
sexually assaults her like right away.
Yeah,
He
it
basically
was.
just kisses her, steals her panties, and basically tells her how easy she is. It was fucking
It
weird.
was. It was weird. Every time they had any kind of like scene like that, it was I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I did not buy them as a romantic couple at all.
Oh no!
At all.
If there's
She
an
seemed
opposite,
much older than him. Like he looked like a
oh
small
yeah,
child. Like I know he's
yeah,
supposed to be like, at that time in his life he was probably like 21, 22 or something like that, but he
hmm,
looks like 16. He
yeah,
doesn't look like an adult.
no,
So in spite of doing his own stunts in this movie, which is cool, he
that is
does
cool.
rollerblade, and at times it looks like he thinks he's gonna fall down.
Yeah,
So he doesn't come across as looking like he's this like expert at it, which
yeah,
is maybe not the best,
it's
as they're trying to present him as being like not only is he this like expert like rollerblader, he's really good at it, right? He's really
oh
really good
yeah,
at rollerblading. So anyway, in the middle of this party, it gets broken up because these corrupt police officers show up, and
hmm,
they basically are trying to convince Corey to go undercover. And this is when we
yeah,
learn a couple things. One, we learn that Patricia Arquette is also undercover. She
yeah,
is not a sex worker hanging out with a bunch of white nationalists. She is actually working a beat as a police officer
yeah,
trying to get information on the Rollerboys because one of the things the Rollerboys are doing is they're selling this product called Mist,
yes,
which is basically like this drug that everyone's hooked on in this post-apocalyptic scenario, which I mean
hmm,
kind of makes sense. If the world has basically ended or is about to end because of economic collapse, I imagine everyone would really probably want to get fucked up on something.
I could see it.
Yeah. I could imagine there being a lot of people over consuming, right?
Right.
So Mist is what they're selling. So the police are trying to get more information on Mist. They recognize that Corey has this unique tie because him and JD Vance used to fuck couches together. And they're like, hey, bro, if you'll go back and become a roller boy and get information for us, we'll make sure you and your brother are taken care of.
Hmm.
Or so they say.
You're right. It's
Yeah. Well, this all goes well and planned, but Corey is like, I'm not interested, right? I don't really want to get
yeah, no.
involved. I'm not interested. But he then sees Milton selling a little mist, and his mind is changed because he realizes
Hmm.
the police were right. Milton's gonna get hooked up into this fucking rollerblading bullshit, and he's gonna start selling mist. The funny thing about this movie that I realized just now is there are several scenes where these kids are in rollerblades and then they get into cars. How are they driving? How do you
Oh.
drive a car in rollerblades? Like, dude, I remember rollerblading, and I remember it being sometimes a pain in the ass to like sit there and unlace them all, or like
Hmm.
worse yet, do like the snaps, like the buckle
Yes.
snaps. It seemed like the buckle snaps every time I remember doing it would like break or break off like in the middle of rollerblading, and you would fall and bust your ass. Maybe that's just
Oh
me,
God.
but taking them off and putting them on is not like an elegant thing. Like it takes a little
No.
bit of time. And these boys are like in rollerblades pretty much the entire time.
Yeah.
How are they driving these cars? This is the
Yeah.
questions I have.
Yeah, because I don't think I ever saw them walking much.
Nah.
No, they're roller boys.
Yeah, yeah. So Corey gets inducted into the group. He decides to change his mind. He's like, all right, Milty's hooked on Mist. I can't have this.
Right.
I'll go undercover. And this is where the movie kind of becomes like Point Break, right? If
Yes.
you took Point Break and removed surfing and then put in rollerblading, You took out California and put in post-apocalyptic California,
Hmm.
and you kept the police the same, right? And instead of, Keanu
Bank
Reeves
robbing.
being bank robbing, instead we have drug dealing.
Yeah.
And instead of Keanu Reeves being a former football player, he is a rollerblader
Yeah.
who, is great at it. And yeah, that's kind of a similar movie at that point.
Yeah.
It's kind of plays out very similarly. Um, I will say I like Point Break a lot more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Point Break is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I love Point Break.
It's
The only
such a
movie
good
I love
movie.
more than Point Break, it was Kathleen Bigelow, is she's the director of that movie,
Yeah.
is Near Dark. That movie is
Oh yeah.
fucking amazing. She's a great director.
Oh yeah, big time.
This movie is not that great, but it's
No,
okay.
no.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. It's fine. So we get to see Corey pass this test, which is really basically just an excuse for them to have an action scene and to show
Yeah.
off the rollerblading. The rollerblading is cool. Like I will
Yeah.
say that the camera work is cool. It doesn't just like
Yeah.
go to a wide shots of them rollerblading. It gets in there. You get to this kind of
Yeah.
like rollerblading 90s skateboarding video shots that are kind of
Yes.
neat. It's cool. And then this is also where you get him inducted into the group because only one of the guys gets inducted in, and the other guy they just
Hmm.
shoot and kill. The
Yeah.
whole thing is basically a diversion so they can steal guns.
Yep. That's all it was.
Yeah, it's just a diversion so they can steal guns. They induct Corey into the group, and this is where I wrote down. I really wish the villain of this movie had more screen time because he is phenomenal in this role.
Oh yes.
Like Gary Lee is a silly name, but he plays this. He makes this movie fun to watch. If he was
Absolutely.
not good, this movie would be very cringy.
Oh
But
yeah.
he is very, very good. He actually gets really into the role. Like you kind of really
Hmm.
truly believe a lot of what he's throwing down. That
Oh yeah.
he believes this bullshit that he's throwing out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So turning my page on my notes here.
Yep.
We get shown how mist is made, and we also get shown that the guy that kind of is helping raise Corey is this older black man named Speedbagger. That's what they call him,
Yeah.
which is an unfortunate
Yeah.
name. And he is disappointed in the boys, but he doesn't know that they're undercover, right? He just
Right.
thinks that they've joined the Rollerboys and that they're become
Hmm.
white supremacists, and he's like, I have no interest in you boys ever again.
Yeah.
So they're kind of doing all this stuff. This is also when Corey learns that Patricia is undercover and she's there to help
Hmm.
him. This is also where we get our quote unquote, this is where I wrote down our sex scene.
Yeah, that oh god, more uncomfortable stuff here.
Yeah. So, um, comparing this movie to Point Break, let's
Hmm.
compare their relationship in Point Break to this movie because Point Break also has a sex scene.
Yes.
And it's between these two similar characters, except in that we get Keanu Reeves and Lori Petty.
Yeah.
Of the two, comparing their relationships and how they're presented, Keanu Reeves and Lori Petty is way better,
Way better.
like 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah.
If we could somehow like get rid of Corey Haim and just like throw Patricia Arquette somehow into Point Break, I would be happier with that. But
Yeah.
fortunately, we don't get that. We get
No, we
this.
don't.
Not that Corey Haim is bad in this movie. He's
No.
not bad.
It's
He's not holding it back or anything like that. It's just it. It's okay. It's okay.
yeah. It's,
It
they
has a
just
lot of
don't
good things
have
going for it.
chemistry.
Yeah, they do not. I do not believe
Mm.
for a second that Patricia Arquette has any interest in fucking Corey Haim.
No, not at
I
all.
just don't. I just not
No.
buying it. If they do, then it is not something that's showing up on screen. They
Yeah.
don't actually fuck, which is why I wrote down
Nope.
sex scene. Right? She kind of leads him on, just like he did her. She takes his pants off and then throws him out.
Yeah. It was yeah.
Basically, the kind of the same thing that he did to her earlier. Is kind of what he did as what she does here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get the
Which
roller boys attack, and this is where
yes.
the roller boys swoop in and they attack one of their rival gangs. And
Hmm.
in this scene, I wrote down is really poorly shot.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was really, really, really poorly put together. There's a lot of like freezes and stops for no reason. The
Hmm.
rollerblading looks fucking horrible. They're
Yeah.
barely moving. It just, for whatever reason, the movie, like the direction, everything kind of takes a stop right in this part, and it just looks
Hmm.
very very bad. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you could have filmed this. Um, anyway, Speedbagger gets attacked, and
Yeah.
Corey and Milty, they are way too mixed up into this shit. And Corey, where he's gonna get his cover blown,
Yeah.
right? And well, he ends up getting his cover blown. And when he
Yeah.
gets his cover blown, he ends up getting one of the roller boys blown away. When that roller boy is Boywinkle,
Yep.
who is also the guy that he saved at the beginning of the
It-
movie,
yes.
who's been
They
giving him
they have
shit the
a
whole time.
I was gonna say they have a lot of friction.
Yeah. Also, Boywinkle has a stupid fucking name.
Yes.
He also drops a lot of hard N words in this movie. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
that
kind of, he should, he
you
got
didn't
shot. He got what he got. He got what he needed.
wasn't sad to see him go.
Nah, fuck him.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
also learned that Corey gets Bowinkle's job, and now he's in charge of how mist is made. And this is the movie kind of takes a weird turn here because now Corey has to go basically spend a day inside of this drug van
Yeah.
selling mist and getting it made. But we do learn what the day of the rope actually is, which it is
Hmm.
a version of mist, except it has a side effect of sterility. Because one
Yes.
of the things Gary Lee wants to do is sterilize anyone that isn't a pure race.
Oh God.
Because if you forgot for a second that this movie is about white nationalism, we're here to
It comes
remind
right
you.
back. Yep.
Yes, yes, yes. It is weird. And this is his idea that's going to fix the white race is that he'll just
Yeah.
sterilize everyone that isn't white and somehow this is going to make everything better.
It couldn't possibly. But that
Yeah.
sounds awful actually.
So the idea is
Um
that go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, did you recognize who he was in that because they get locked into that van thing? Did you
Yeah,
recognize the guy he was locked in with?
I did
Maybe
and
you'll
I didn't.
recognize
So I recognized him,
if
but I didn't recognize anything he was in.
so the only thing I recognize, or the main thing I recognize him from, he's been in a lot of stuff, but the main thing is whenever he says the line, Jackie Treehorn wants the real Lebowski here. You're not dealing with morons here.
Oh, that is him. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was in Big Lebowski. Yeah, you're
that's
right.
right.
Good
He
job.
was one of
Yeah.
the goons. Yeah.
Yeah, would not have pieced that together. That's funny. He's kind of a goon in this movie, but he's probably the most charismatic and interesting of the
Oh,
goons.
he was having a good time.
He puts a lot of performance into this.
He's
Whenever
good.
he's
He's
showing
really good.
Corey around how the drug is made, he gets really into
Hmm.
showing how the drugs are made. And when
Yep.
he's selling drugs, he's doing it in a funny way. He tells him he's like, "Give this kid a little bit more. He's cute." Like
Yeah.
it's very silly. It's very, very
Yeah.
silly. But yeah, this is his idea of how he's going to fix the white race is to sterilize
Yeah.
everyone. And the idea is that Corey is getting info on how this is made, and then they
Hmm.
usually are able to flush the drugs before the police arrive. So the idea is that
Yeah.
this time, since Corey's on the inside, he's going to stop them from doing that. That's
Yes.
the plan. Well,
But
turns out shit gets fucked up real fast because the cops that are helping Corey, well, they're dirty.
yeah.
So when they break in, they kill the guy that's watching the mist creation with Corey, who also tries to
Hmm.
kick Corey's ass.
Yep.
Then the dirty
Nice little
cops
fight
are,
scene there.
yeah, yeah, there's nice little fights and stuff. Then the dirty cops are killed by the real cops.
Yep.
Then the real cops are confronted by by the roller boys.
Yeah. It was.
All of this happens back to back to back. It is like
Yes.
it's like one thing, then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, like real
Yep.
fast. So JD Vance wants his drugs, and he's offering Milty in return for his drugs. And of course,
Yeah.
this does
He's.
not go well because the police are like, "No,
Yeah.
we don't
No
deal with
deal.
terrorists. No deal." So,
I
it,
love the way he kept saying "no deal,"
no deal. Yeah,
like he
Corey
was
keeps.
like he was telling no to the banker on Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, no deal. Next briefcase. Yeah. So in this rollerblading phenomenal movie, we finally get our rollerblading
Oh
showdown.
yes.
And yeah, JD Vance and Corey Haim, they rollerblade around this like abandoned house factory all over the place for a
Yeah.
little while, chasing each other, having themselves
Explosion. There's
all kinds of
some.
rollerblading
Yeah.
showdown. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite rollerblading showdown? Because in almost all rollerblading movies,
Yeah.
there is a rollerblading showdown or rollerblade off.
Yes. Well, I mean, obviously, it would be I mean, I'll call this the pinnacle of rollerblade offs.
Hold on, let me write
Is
this down. Let me go ahead and write this down. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, is the racing scene in Airborne
Obviously,
where they're
racing scene
all
in
yeah,
Airborne.
yeah, it was yeah when they're all racing down this like bunch of hills through all this traffic and all these streets and going through just this insane like gauntlet basically, and they're just all racing. Yeah, you know, it's
It's a
it's
good time.
it's a good time and it's silly and Jack Black's there and it's a good time.
Airborne is a slept-on movie that more people need to talk about and watch. It is
Oh,
a
I
fun time.
love that movie.
If you grew up in the 90s, there's a pretty good chance you saw part of Airborne at one
Hmm.
point in your life, and you should owe it to yourself to watch it again.
Absolutely.
Do you have a number two, a rollerblade off?
Okay, let's see. Oh
Because
man.
I got one in mind.
Oh, I may have to defer to you because I that one was so
So
strong.
there's this 90s movie called, or not 90s, yeah, I guess it was, or maybe early 2000s, don't know. Not Disney Channel movie called Brink.
Brink.
Yeah, Brink also has a rollerblade
Yes,
showdown.
that is a solid rollerblade showdown.
It's a pretty good one. Both of those are better than this one. Um,
Yeah.
this one
Al-
ends. Oh, good.
Although I will say you get Corey Haim doing a pretty cool move where he like jumps on this pole, flips around, and like knocks down um Gary Lee.
He does do that. And
Yeah.
like I said, Corey did all of his own stunts, so that was
Yeah.
really him doing that. So hey, he was putting in the
Gotta
work, man. He was trying to
I
be a
mean,
movie
yeah,
star. He was
it
trying.
was impressive, honestly.
He was trying. God damn it, he was
Yeah.
trying. Keanu
Oh
didn't
yeah.
accept this one. You know, Keanu probably got this. Maybe Keanu looked. I imagine Keanu looked at the script of this and was like, "Rollerblading? Nah, bruh." And
Yeah.
then moved on to the one that was about surfing, and he was like, "That's the one."
That's the one.
Probably makes more sense, honestly.
Yeah, it
Um,
really, yeah.
yeah. So Corey ends up winning the fight. He's got the option to kill Jay Vance, and he decides not to.
He decides not to.
He says justice is going to do its time.
Yeah.
I wrote down. I highly doubt. I think he'll be out in under a day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where the movie wraps up. Corey and the gang, they get back together with Speedbagger and Patricia
Yeah.
Arquette, and they are headed to the Pacific Northwest to Oregon.
Yeah.
And J.D. Vance is also headed to the Pacific Northwest and Oregon,
Yep.
as he feels like that is where Corey is headed to because he is not going to let this rivalry end. And we set
Nope.
up for a sequel that never, ever, ever got made.
Oh no, no.
So never, ever got made. And then the
No.
movie ends. Movie
Yep.
ends.
And that's how it ends.
What were your thoughts about Prayer of the Roller Boys?
It was it, it was a good. I had a good time watching it. It was just like the movies I would have watched back in 91. It reminded me a lot of that. I mean, it's like that giving that parallel to Ninja Turtles movie where you have that scene where they're at the Foot Clan where they're because that was in two, right?
Which one? 1990. Oh,
Well, the
yeah,
one in 99, yeah,
1991 was
the
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
yeah, and they had that scene where they're at the Foot Clan or whatever, and they got like they're blading around or skating around. They got all kinds
Oh,
of
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, like all kinds of arcade games and
Yeah, yeah,
skateboard
yeah, yeah.
stuff, and
Right at the
yeah,
beginning. Yeah, yeah.
so it's a lot of that. I mean, that was just
Yeah.
a thing in the early 90s where it was like, hang out with these crime people and have a good time. So, like that was just right up my alley for back then. Took me right back to those days. Because I was like, what, 7 or 8 back then. So
Yeah.
it just it captured that same 8-year-old's imagination on that part. Um, wasn't excited about all the white supremacist stuff, but I mean, you got to have a villain, and boy, does that make a good villain. So,
Does make for
um,
a good villain. Does make for a
yeah,
good villain.
it writes itself basically. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, and I was impressed with Corey Haim, putting in the work, doing the rollerblading, doing the stunts. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I did like this movie, and it was uncomfortable with the stuff with Patricia Arquette. It felt forced, didn't feel mm, I mean, I enjoyed watching her. I'm always up for watching Patricia Arquette in a movie, but that was rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, a solid rollerblading kind of post-apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, it's got a lot of Point Break to it. I like Point Break more than this.
Mhm.
I thought the world that they established was cool. The setting was interesting. This post-apocalyptic situation due to an economic collapse. Gangs have taken over individual states and different parts of states. You know, we're getting all this. That's really cool. Colleges have moved to different countries. All of this is really interesting stuff, and the movie does get into a lot of it and does explore some of these things, which I thought was cool. I thought it was cool how the main characters played around in the universe and all those things. To what you said about the relationship in the movie, I did not buy at all.
No.
Um, some of the acting in the movie is a little cheesy at times
Mhm.
because you're dealing with a lot of young actors. Like most of these people in this movie were in their early 20s when they did this. So I don't think this is any of their best performance. Like Patricia Arquette would be become a much better actress. Corey Haim is really good in this. He's not bad. He's fine. And the villain, like I said at the beginning, is maybe the best in the entire movie. Is the villain Chris Coulet or Chris Corlett, whatever you want to say his name is. I'm not sure. He was fantastic. Um, it's a pretty good movie, honestly. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, to
definitely
say that
recommend
it's
it.
not as yeah, to say it's not as good as Point Break is not a bad thing. Point Break
No,
is a really good movie. Not the
I was gonna say
remake
that's
that
a
they
high
did. I
bar.
don't give a fuck about that at all. Yeah, the
Yeah.
original Point
Oh
Break,
yeah, I've still
as far
never
as
seen the
like
remake.
action, yeah, the remake is shit. Don't watch that one.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
as the original Point Break, as far as like action movies go, is
Hmm.
pretty high bar. Like
Oh, absolutely. And you get a nice cameo from
alone are
the.
perfect.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think you cut out for
Yeah.
a second.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. All of a sudden, my computer went a little crazy.
Oh, yep.
It was giving me all kinds of notifications.
Oh no. But yeah,
Yeah, it was
and
bizarre.
you get a nice little
Yeah, it was
cameo with the chili peppers. That's nice.
true,
Or
true,
well,
true.
at least Anthony Kiedis.
Lori Petty.
Oh yeah, Lori Petty. I'm
Any
always.
movie with Laura. This is any movie with Lori Petty is pretty.
I mean, because she's in one of my
We will
favorite
get to talk about Tank
post-apocalypse
Girl.
movies. Yes. Thank
I was gonna
you.
say. I think we both cut out at the same time and came back to Tank Girl. uh, let's
That's
talk about
funny.
what we're going to talk about next week because we're not
Yeah.
talking about Tank Girl next week, but maybe the week
No.
after. Next
Ooh.
week, we have already set up what we're talking about because this is one that we referenced weeks ago. We appeared on our friend Dominic's podcast, Monster Movie Fun Time Go, to talk
Mhm.
about zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
And at the end of that, we talked about hooking up for another episode. And so that's what we're going to do next week. He's going to show up on our show, and we're going to talk about another movie from 1991. This movie, Neon City,
Yes.
starring Michael Ironside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love Michael
If you,
Ironside.
yes, yes, yes. This is a good. I have never seen this one. I'm hoping it's
Nope,
good.
hadn't watched it
Um,
yet.
I
So.
know the only thing I know about it is it's post-apocalyptic, 1991. Michael Ironside is the hero,
Oh, okay. Now
not the
I'm all
bad
the way on
guy.
board.
Exactly, right?
Oh,
Immediately, like against type Michael Ironside. What the
yes.
fuck is that like? Like he's always the bad guy in everything, and in this
Always.
he's the good guy, and it's like, all right, I got to see what this is like.
Yes.
I'm interested immediately. So, yeah, we're gonna watch that next week and talk to our friend Dom about his feelings on that movie and maybe, well,
Mhm.
probably the world as well, because he's probably gonna have a lot to say
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
about
definitely.
everything that's happened this week. And so next week we may have to pause on our not talking politics so much embargo.
Yeah, right.
Although we talked about it a little bit today,
It did a little bit, and that's
you have
fair.
to. It's kind
It
of a big
exists.
deal. It's kind of a
Yeah.
big deal. I'm used to teaching high school kids I don't give a shit about politics, and that's fair to them. I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. You can't really participate, but
Oh yeah.
I always tell them like, once it starts impacting your lives in a real meaningful way, it's hard not to care a little bit. But
It's
sometimes
it's
maybe it's
like
easier for some people to seek entertainment that doesn't have any
mhm.
political talk, and
Yeah, that's
unfortunately, on
fair.
a podcast about post-apocalyptic scenarios, it's a little hard to not talk about it here and there. especially in a movie where the post-apocalyptic scenario is that the government caused the economy to collapse. So,
Yep.
that's maybe a thing, especially when Mr. Elon Musk just kind of was joking about that a couple days ago. So,
Yeah, he was.
anyway, let's strap in for a good time next week as we talk about
Yeah.
Neon City. Hopefully, you guys had fun talking about this movie this week. Our last episode, Blood of Heroes, just as a shameless plug for us, was our most listened to episode ever, which was kind of
Yeah.
cool. So,
Coming out of nowhere.
yeah, I did
That I didn't
not.
expect it on that.
Did not
Yeah.
either. I did not. I did not. I kind of expected it with Six String that would get a lot of people to listen to
Yeah.
it because I knew that
Oh.
movie had a big cult audience. I did
Hmm.
not know Blood of Heroes had that large of a cult audience that we would become our most listened to episode. I'm not sure what the cult audience of Prayer of the Roller Boys is like. I guess we're gonna find
Yeah.
out. Maybe
We'll find out.
maybe we'll get a lot of first time people tuning in to be like, what do these two fucking schmucks have to say about Prayer of the Roller Boys? Well, these two fucking schmucks are going to sign off tonight, and we will talk to you
Nice.
guys next week to talk about Neon City. And, well, we'll see how the world is in a week.
Yeah.
We'll
Let's see.
talk to you guys then. Peace.
Take it easy.